evening, everybody. Steve, Giorgio, hi. You're on, buddy.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for inviting us again, and so that we can discuss. I will present what currently we have accomplished and what we're looking for the next steps. And before starting, I wanted to mention that we appreciate the help our team. Alberto Pisani is with Chen Moore. Good to meet you. Nice to meet everyone. So, and also, in addition, I wanted to mention that with the entire team, which includes Steve, Michael, and the entire village team, we had a very long discussion and back and forth and back and forth. Originally, we had a longer presentation. We condensed it to provide a better answers, and I'd appreciate that.
You look better on TV.
Who doesn't wear frequently these kind of ties? So so appreciate the help. We've been working very thoroughly to provide answers and to provide details, sufficient details, and I'll start the presentation. With the presentation will cover what is the project status, how far we are. How far we are in the project, the discharge feasibility, and what is our approach to determine the discharge needs, and also we conceptualized integrated modular unit that includes a pump, a well, and also sediment control. And we also came up with, based on simulations with the model analysis, I wanted to mention that this is a detailed surfacing groundwater model. It includes 5 layers of the entire superficial aquifer. It includes all 1,500 different nodes that are manholes. So this provides a very good detail of where the flow goes and how this, and what are the interactions with the surface flow, with the groundwater flow, since the groundwater flow is a very significant factor when we inject stormwater in the ground. And we have developed a number of simulations. We're still going to do some additional refinement, particularly based on the feedback from the ad hoc committee and from the residents. And we'll talk about the next steps. I will go through the presentation. We have, in the first 8 to 9 slides, we have the entire concept developed. And after these slides, we have more details which we can discuss. So in the very beginning, I will give you, I will provide the information that we have summarized. After the initial review, of the data, and after developing the model, and we had a hesitation whether we're going to inject fully all the amount in the ground or we will be partially. So our previous presentations were referring to partial injection in the ground and partial discharge through the outfalls. After reviewing the data and after the permitting agencies meetings, we're considering a full injection in the ground. That means, and we have determined that we'll need 6 pumps for 6 locations, and because of backup purposes, we also are going to use 6 duplex pumps, which means that each location will have 2 pumps. One is going to be the backup, and one is going to be for flow. And these can be configured for peak conditions. Both of them can be turned on, which will provide a total of 90 CFS of cubic feet per second flow in the ground. And so that's currently the concept. We did analysis, we developed simulations. We can see that within a couple of hours, we can drain substantial amount of flooded areas in the ground, and these will not be discharged. There's not going to be discharges in the outfalls. So we have the conceptual network configuration. We had, based on the initial uncertainties of what will be the final approach, we believe right now we're talking about the final approach. And we are able to start looking in more details in the cost and provide a more detailed cost analysis, because we have the following items. We have a well. We know that the size of the well, and these are more or less better known as the information about the well cost is known, and we know the pump station, how this will be configured. There might be some changes, so this costing can be provided on this, and we know that we'll need a sediment control structure. These are ready structures that are provided by several companies. We talk to them, we have a general cost. So we can provide these three items as cost.
Yes. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to make sure, at least from a framework standpoint, because to understand what your technical approach is, and also to kind of, in the interest of providing clarity why you're doing this, the way I see it from the report is that you have established that, or have said in the report, that really were controlled more by, not so much by the rainfall. The rainfall, as important as it is, we're not so much worried about the water that's coming from the sky, but more as the water that's coming in from the bottom and from the sides. Is that a fair statement?
The whole
I'm asking a question because that's how I see the report. Yeah. He's taken into account rainfall. Let me finish, man.
Why don't you let him finish the presentation?
Because I want to make sure we understand.
Guys, he's entitled to ask a question. Luis, just keep it, please. Okay, just please. Thanks.
Control yourself.
Thanks.
Can you explain that a little bit better? Okay, finish up, and then we will.
No, briefly, I can answer with a couple of sentences. Okay. We have the precipitation when it falls on the ground, right, because it falls with very high rate, it forms these puddles and floods. Some of it goes in the ground, some of this goes to the. So at peak conditions, we have the precipitation intensity very high, and the groundwater and the pipes are unable to take all the water to drain it. Okay. So we get this flooding that stays for a long time, for hours, until this natural process take care of it. Right. So we're addressing that particular aspect. We're taking the flooded volume that's above the ground, and we are going to inject it in the ground.
Okay.
So it's not, but we're considering the interactions between the groundwater and the rest. Okay.
Go ahead.
So with this, I will continue to the next. The project timeline, we're today on February.
Excuse me, you happy with the answer?
Yes. Well, I'll get back to it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm pretty happy. Yeah, it's fine.
And by the way, we're planning a separate meeting with Fernando, where we'll go deep in the details, because he has expertise in civil engineering, and so definitely it will be very helpful. And so we're on February 3rd, we have done the first three tasks. We're still refining some of the pump network design. We're actually very much completed with it. We're looking in the background through the phasing, and based on the discussion today, and based on any questions that we need to provide, we may do some additional adjustments so that this process, and together with the entire team, with Mike and with the village team, it's a brain effort for all of us. I wanted also to mention something that's very important conceptually, which also partially will answer your question. Conceptually, if we look at I think I have a problem with this, but I had a problem before. I cannot turn it on. Yeah. Oh, okay, thank you, Mike. So what is the, because we're talking about the alternative. And when we talk about the alternative, we had the basis, which was the previous stormwater plan. The previous plan was to the excess water, to drain the excess water and discharge it to the outfalls, the outfall. So I also wanted to mention a natural hydrologic cycle because we want to talk about the environmental aspect of our proposal. The natural hydrologic cycle, you have precipitation, and if there was no urban areas, no imperviousness, this will discharge in the ground and will infiltrate in the ground. And by adding this imperviousness, which is typical for urban areas, we are developing excess runoff that there is nowhere to go. And we do, and the result is flooding. And it's complicated to drain urban areas because when you have everything on the top of the surface, you don't have easy access to the outfalls. So that is the base alternative. It takes all the flooded water and discharges to a pump station. That is not unusual, where this is done in many areas. And for our case, what we want to do and what we are doing is the excess water is collected through the surface network, and this is then injected in the ground. That resembles the natural hydrologic cycle. So we're not disrupting the hydrological cycle. And we're mimicking the natural hydrological cycle to the maximum extent. This has lots of other aspects. This project will be totally environmental, in addition to other aspects, which we believe it will result in lower costs. So that is also not unusual. In many communities are using this specific type of treatment. So that's the conceptually what we are considering. One question that we addressed is how do we compare, because we're relying on model. How do we compare this like a model which is numerical representation of this physical system that involves lots of parameters, involves lots of uncertainties, the parameters. So it requires some calibration. For example, when we have a model, we need to adjust the parameters in such a way that represents the existing event to the maximum extent. So then we say, okay, this model is calibrated, and then we can use it for forecasting. So that is the same approach that AECOM did. That's the same approach that we take. We have this image represents the event occurring, stormwater event that occurred on 27th of September 2022. And based on discussion with the residents, we know that there has been lots of changes of the stormwater system. And even though we're simulating the older event prior to additional rehabilitation or cleaning, this is the best set of data that we have. And we have also a suggestion, if for future events, it will be good to track these and measure flooded areas, because this will provide a better calibration of the our current analysis. So that's a suggestion. And how this can be done, you know, basically you can have somebody drive and take a measurement. I think it's not a large area, but so that we can have this record. Our team was on the ground on the 22nd of January. Our team, Michael, and the village staff were on the ground. We drove around. There is a significant level of flooding, and that's something we observed. We didn't take any measurements because he was kind of surprised, but at least we looked at the locations. They correspond very well to this image, and also to what we observed. What I wanted to mention about this image is that this is an actual event that we just discussed. You have precipitation, and it creates ponds on the surface, and we can measure the amount of the water, and we can say, and we can calculate it, and we can say we need to be able to mitigate this by removing or draining this volume of water, and that's how we got to the point where we calculated rates that are required to drain this, as assuming it's like a reservoir, not relying on the infiltration, not relying on the because it requires fast draining. So pump will provide 1 to 2 hours to drain. If we leave it, it will remain for a long time and ponded, and it does not correspond to level of service. But here is this table for the 5-year event. What is the situation? We have total of 51 acre-feet, which is approximately 1 million cubic feet of water stays on the ground.
Excuse me, Giorgio.
Yes.
One quick question. Not a question, just a clarification. As I read this, does that mean that basically your model is based on the flood depth being 8.5% higher than ACOM's, and you're going to pump basically 6% more water than they projected pumping?
Yeah, that's basically.
Okay, that was it. I just want to make sure that I understood.
Yeah, basically, yes. We're comparable. Both these models provide a representative volume that's the flooding volume. So we're not different. We're comparable. We're slightly higher, which is also can be treated as a conservative number. We have variations in where is the depth is, but pretty much in the same range. So these are very similar results. And
Before you go further, one more thing. Before you mentioned there were duplex pumps, there were 15 CFS pumps. Now, does that mean that it was like a pump that's 7.5, and then when that reaches capacity, the second pump comes in? Or are they both 15, and when one fails, the other one works?
yeah, the purpose is to have one as a backup, and that could be configured by the SCADA system.
So each pump is 15 CFS.
Each pump is 7.5.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
So they can be independent, but they can work in a tandem together.
Okay, thank you.
And that's one of the benefits that hopefully that's going to lower the cost. Although the pump units themselves, the pump itself, they are not the most expensive. The most expensive are the additional concrete works, dewatering, excavations, and so on. But these two pumps, the purpose, the reason we notice, I'll show you later on a figure that shows how the pumping is needed. And so in general, we determined that we are relying on 65.6 CFS capacity for the 5-year event. Capacity, that means that the pumps need to work for 4 hours. We need to remove, for 4 hours, we need to have pumps working to remove the flooded water, which will comply with the level of service. So that is the objective. I also wanted to address in the previous meeting, Mr. London asked the question: what are the occurrences, or what is the frequency of the rainfall? So we extracted from 2000 to 2026. We included 26 also, even though it's just 1 month, but we had a 22nd of January of flood event. So you can see the frequency, and we're not making any statement because you can see that between 20 and 24, there was 36, there was the maximum amount of these events occurred in 20. We're not making any statement that this is increasing with time. This is I consider this this is a stochastic process, a natural variability of the rainfall. We can increase, it can decrease, but we need to be prepared for the high point. So it's definitely very important, and if we do nothing, as Mr. London said, what will happen, we had for 10 years, statistically, we had approximately 25 events. So we can say that are above 4 inches.
What would be the average number of hours for an event?
For the pumps to work for that?
Yes.
The average hours, during the peak conditions, between 1 to 3 hours.
And if the pumps didn't work, in other words, it now rains this amount of water, the pumps didn't work, naturally, how long would gravity take to go down the wells and in the ground, et cetera, before it gets to the level of service of our 14 inches, whatever the number is?
In terms of how many inches, I think 2 to 3 inches will.
No, how many hours we're talking about?
For
So in other words, 2 hours,
for
3
the
hours,
total
it's
drainage?
going to pump. But assume the pump wasn't working, okay?
Yeah.
How long is it going to take?
Depends on the total volume. That's I think it will range. If you go to 5 to 6 inches, we saw that it will take probably 12 hours. If you go 6 to 7 inches, that's going to gradually go.
So using a half a day, I'm just trying to get an idea.
Yeah. In some locations, even more.
Sorry?
Similar to what's happening now.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what it is, that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilmember, if I may, 2 questions. So I got 2 questions on you, Giorgio. One is on this one and then one on the previous slide. Are the ones to the right, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, are those subsets of 4, 5, so the total
Yeah.
events of 25?
The total would be the total of all of these that circle that will be above, because there for each range we summarized how many events are there. So it's for each range. So for the 6 to 7 there was.
So they're cumulative. They're not.
Oh no, they don't cumulative.
That's a subset.
So if we say, depend how we formulate. If we say what is above 6 inches, then we have to add all of these to accumulate them. So this will include the 4 events in 6 to 7, because the 7 to 8, another 3 events, then 8 to 9, another 3. So that's if we ask the question, what is above? But if we say what is between 6 and 7, these are the numbers that occur.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but I'm not sure you're answering my question. I'm clear on. Are the ones to the right a subset? Because I'm reading 4 to 5, and there's 25 total. So am I to believe that there are only 25 of those events, 4 or 5 and above, and the ones are subsets above that? Or is this aggregate?
No, this is not aggregate. This is only valid for this range. The number of events that is between 4 to 5.
In other words, 4 to 5, there were 5 events between 2005 and 2009. There were 5 events. 5 to 6 inches, there were 3 events, correct?
Yeah, and if we ask the question, what is about 5 events? What is about 4 inches? Then we'll say 5 plus 3 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. So this will give you
54 events.
12. Oh yeah,
Okay,
54
that's what
total.
I'm trying to. Okay.
Yes,
yes,
yes.
That's what I'm clear.
So they have to
I
be
thought
some.
there were subsets of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So total 54 events. If you don't mind going back to the previous slide, and you know I've asked this one before, so you should be ready for this.
Oh yeah.
I want to be clear on how you got to 65.6. We have 2 other reference points. One is the original 155, I believe it was, and then when we asked AECOM to do the
77.
the modified based on the change of level of service and design criteria, they came up with 77. But if they took into consideration the storage in their pipes, it would be somewhere between 90 and 100. Obviously, you're doing your modeling a little bit different. But how do you account for those different numbers?
Steve, may I add? If I remember, Steve, before he does. The 77 was a system that removed 1 inch per hour, and the 155 was a system that removed 2 inches per hour, and that's how those numbers came about.
No. When we asked AECOM to do the alternative modeling based on the new level of service and design criteria, their number came in around, interesting, it was about 77. I don't know the
It was
exact number.
77.
Yeah, it was
you're
somewhere
right.
around there.
And it was 155, and
No.
basically it wasn't exactly half, because I remember I thinking, you know, why is it 70? Anyway,
But what-
that was, so I asked that question then, and the question was, one was a 1-inch system, the other was a 2-inch system. Because originally they came with a 3.2-inch system, then they came back with a 2-inch system, then they came back with a 1-inch system that could go up to the 2-inch system. So the piping was built for a 2-inch system, but the pumps and everything else were based on a 1-inch system.
No, I know that. But what I'm talking about is the modeling that we asked them to do in September, October. And then what they said, because their model was set up with their pipes already in the model simulation, they couldn't take it out. So they said there was an unnatural storage of water, and they estimated that would add an additional amount of water. Again, this is based on their modeling, between 90 and 100 CFS. That would be the discharge requirement. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He knows. So how did you differentiate between the 90, let's just say 95, splits the middle, 95 and your 65? What's the how do you account for those other 30 CFS?
So we're not accounting for what was this 30 CFS. What we are doing is we're taking the amount of the volume that's during peak condition, which is also present in this image. And so you can see we have for the 5-year event, we calculated 21 acre feet above the ground. For this event, the observed is 16 in this image. Like I'm looking at so for this event we have 16 point, the ACOM model shows 16.715 acre feet above the ground. So we did not, from here, our concept is we need to drain this amount through for 4 hours. That's how our calculation is. They had this in the model. I can provide details. We need to ask them to, because they use the model and the rates, but these rates are probably, I think it's all correct what they do. We have comparable results, but our approach after this, it differs. We are not relying on a model, we're relying on calculation, a simple calculation. We have a reservoir of water, ponded water, we need to drain it for 4 hours, and we calculate a rate.
Excuse me, what water did you think you're going to go into these pumps? Were you draining 100% of the lawns, 25%, 75%?
So this is the excess that stays on the ground.
So my question is, they were presuming 100% went into the street, and then they pumped 100%. That's where they came to the 77 and the 155.
When we changed it, remember we brought it in from 100 to 25.
But I'm asking you, what percentage do you think is going to go around?
We're not.
We are not using exactly the same methodology, because we have a model that's like 2-dimensional. Everything falls on the ground, so we don't have 100 feet, 120
Right.
feet.
You're not doing any capture into the property.
We have
assuming
actually
the whole thing, the water.
we have based on the right of way. I wish I brought this, but we're calculating the impervious area based on what is observed in what was the survey. All the roofs are present and they are 100% impervious. All the roads are present, they are 100% impervious. Then we have the pervious areas that are implemented. So this creates a natural runoff, and approximately based on what I have was let's say 50% is impervious. So the 50% impervious, it's a direct runoff through the streets. So we don't have 100 feet, 200 feet contributing. We don't have that. Everything is contributing.
But Giorgio, you're using a grid model. You said
Yeah.
you're using a Linear grid model, which is 5 by 5. You're
Yes.
placing that over the entire island, so therefore that contribution issue is not part of the criteria.
It's
because
not necessary. It's not. I don't have to do this
I
simplification.
understand.
Correct.
Thank you.
It's two different criteria, two different comparisons.
Yeah, different approach.
That was the intent of my earlier question. It's green here. The intent of my earlier question was that, what we understand as engineers, the boundary conditions is what dictates the basis of your design, right? I wasn't suggesting that rainfall is not something to take into account. I was just trying to explain the optics of how you're looking at the design versus the optics of how AECOM is looking at their design. Neither one is bad. We can address it. Neither one is not correct. They cannot be corrected. But I think that what you're looking at, and I just want to understand, is that your boundary conditions, how you establish the basis of your design, are based on the groundwater condition. Because, as you very well said, it's an impervious area, it ponds. So you capture that flow, what you see here in red, that groundwater pool of water, and you just capture that, and you inject it, you manifold it, whatever you do. But it's not like, hey, let's wait for the rain, and when it rains, let's put big pipes. Let's make sure that it runs through, and we capture it and all that, because then we're dealing with models, hydrological models, as I was saying before. We're dealing with hydrological models from South Florida Water Management District that give us a ton of water. So what you're doing is you're basically just saying, hey, let me grab the water here. My boundary, it's like you got a boat that's sinking, right? And the water's coming up. Right? You're looking at the problem of sinking more than the problem of just discharging whatever we anticipate is going to come up.
Yeah, it's not based on
Right.
some number. And I think one thing you can, when you look at this image, you can ignore these two deviations of the models, this model and that model.
Right.
You can take the actual volume of flooded water on the ground, and you can say, I need a pump to pump it for 4 hours. You don't need a model for, like you have measured the data. With a model, the advantage of a model is that it will provide further details like how the pipe length, the pipe diameters and catch basins. So that's really the benefit of the model. But to understand the capacity, you need to look at the ponded water and say, I have so much ponded water, I need to drain it in that amount of time.
Giorgio, just real quick, I think Steve, are you clear on what your question or not?
Yeah, but what I think I'm hearing you saying is that you're calculating it over time versus at a single point in time, is what you're saying. I think I hear you saying.
Oh, yes.
So you're by taking the water in over the 4-hour period, your system at the beginning isn't even really impacted until it hits, obviously, unless it comes down fast. So the ponding is the 65.6.
The ponding is
not the amount of water that you're moving.
Correct.
Yes.
That's peak water versus
It's peak flooded water.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to make sure that was at.
Yeah, that's very good point.
Exactly.
You kind of, for lack of a better thing, if you have this little curve that goes like this part here, your system's fully taken care of. Then your pump starts kicking in. And that's your 65.6.
And Steve,
Yes.
we will look at the slide, right? He's used the AECOM model and he's calibrated his model to the AECOM model. That's total flood volume. AECOM was at 16.75. He's at 17.81. So they're basically, he's 6% high. So he's got a little bit of factor there, but the model's calibrated to that event specifically.
Basically, just grabbing whatever's in the bottom of the bathtub, and you're just
just draining.
trying to use more. So yes, we
Yeah, technically both approaches are correct. There is no doubt about this. But we really look at it in the practical way. We take this flooded water and we need to drain it. And
right.
But I think it's what's important. It's not draining. Like it's not pulling the plug in the bathtub. What it is, the water is going at a period of time, and then it's only when it fills up and it can no longer do it. That's the 65.6.
yes, that's
That's what
peak.
I'm trying to get to, right? So as long as the system is moving, there's no system.
Yeah, it's like.
But when it can no longer move, that's the ponding, and that's when that's why it's different between 65 and 95.
It's like
Yeah.
That's what I want to get to.
But
an alarm, and once that alarm kicks in,
yeah, yes, exactly. And we'll look at the details. We have more detailed data. We will place in the report. For our discussion, you can simply look into the basis of these 65.6. And here is our visit to the reason we place this, we wanted to say also that there is locations that work well. And there is locations that are slightly above the ground. And I think for illustration, there is a video here showing these two. Like if you look at that, like you can look, the whole street is drained into this, very efficient. There is a surface water flowing from, basically the whole street is flooded. And we understand there is going to be tidal impacts, and at this point it was low tide, it wasn't high, so we understand the tidal, but we also think that what Mr. Vasquez mentioned the last time, that inspection of the system is critical, because if the point is that if you have everything working, you have more places like that to be able to drain the water. So this is one of the critical aspects. So here is a summary of the proposed configuration. And we created track 1, track 2, and track 3. They're independent. They can be done independently. They can be phased. Track 1 would be inspection and sewer repair through televised survey, and also the repair of some of the pipes that have collapsed or that some that are broken. That would be necessary. We looked at the system. The majority of the system is at 18-inch pipe. We're not suggesting this to be replaced. Although because that's independent, you can slip line it at this particular point, because when you slip line it, basically they're much smoother. They're slightly smaller diameter, but they're smoother and it will move faster. Right. And also, one of the benefits of small diameters is that sedimentation, like velocities, would be higher. The capacity would be limited, but the sedimentation will be higher.
To make up for the friction.
Yes.
The friction factor, the real loss.
The friction loss, yeah.
So this is track 1. Track 2, which is, like we highlighted the critical tracks. These are critical. We consider this to be critical. Rehabilitation of the existing stormwater system. And there are methodologies for that, and especially slip lining is a good approach to reduce the cost. And track 2 would be
Joe, for people who are not familiar with slick lining, you're basically saying you're basically putting a sleeve inside an existing pipe, for lack of a better term.
Yes, and you do that, and there are locations that would not be possible, because if you have a root penetrating the thing, that's not going to be.
The pipe is cured in place.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
Right.
And so that improved the conveyance, actually, even though it reduces a little bit the diameter. Then the other critical track is to construct these injection wells, and together with the pumps, and these can be phased. That's a very important aspect, because you don't have to, like, you can start with prioritizing, and you can prioritize one of the 6, and then the pipeline upgrades and connections. This is something that we're proposing. There is a lot of dead ends which actually interfere with the concept of distributed system. When you have a distributed system, is like in urban area, how the cars can go in different direction and everything. When you have like one single dead end, all the water has to go through one single pipe, and that creates congestion. We can look at with the model to understand where this can be prioritized. And so this was the concept. This is the concept, really. This slide provides a summary of what.
So, Giorgio, since you do point out the repair, outfalls, and upgrade minimum 24-inch diameter, even though we're not currently under this design having to use the outfalls, you still want those outfalls to be available in the event we need them down the road.
Yeah, we're suggesting as an optional consideration, because the outfalls are there. They're permitted. Maybe they have collapsed. Maybe they can restore. Maybe they have issues. Maybe they have to be changed. But they will provide they'll provide mitigation for the localized, because you'll see from the coverage that we're proposing at the well, some of these areas will be distant from the wells. So if they have direct access to, and if this is permitted, they could be used. Also, as an optional scenario, is these pumps, even though that will require a force main, which we're not suggesting at this point, but this can be upgraded in the future to connect it to the outfalls and.
So we were discussing. So the idea is you could put a manifold in place, some type of manifold in place, and use some other injection pump to inject that water to the outfall if we run out of capacity with the injection wells.
Yes, I think that's the concept.
Okay.
Yeah, so the way I think I understood it is that you got your 7 pump stations laid out and you got interconnected pipe systems, I guess, so it becomes kind of like a war of, not a war, but you know, they
Competition,
work with each other.
competitive, yeah.
They work with each other to discharge. So they're always at one point or another, they're resolving the issue. They're talking to
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah, we have one case. We'll show you how this works. This will
No,
require.
I'm sorry, one last question. So you talked about the fact that we have some of our pipes are basically terminating in one place. They're not interconnected. So this 7,000 feet of additional pipe would allow us to basically interconnect the entire system.
Yes. And so also another aspect is that because it's very important.
Before you answer, would that also give us the ability to route water at the opposite direction? So in the event that we have something get plugged or damaged on one side, we'd have the opportunity to route the water the opposite way, similar to
The
a power grid.
alternative route, yeah.
Okay. Gives another level of redundancy.
Yes, that's very important because it provides the overall conveyances is increasing. Instead of having like a large pipe that's focused, you have a multiple conveyances. And also there is another aspect that when you add the new pipe system and new lines, you also adding catch basins, and they should be placed strategically at the low point. And right now with these detailed models, and even with any models, we can suggest locations that are low, and you can have these catch basins because that's also shorten the flood.
We also adding capacity too, because by adding more pipe, we're physically adding more capacity in the system. Correct? Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. And also, if you look at this one, for example, this inlet was above the ground. So if you look, this is ponding that was staying for a long time. So there is no access to the system.
George, I'm glad you went back to that slide. So I know you put stars next to you. No, go ahead, go forward though, because it's actually on the other slide, the next clip.
Here.
You put stars on here for critical tasks, and I was wondering why the add a lower catch basin and inlets to flood locations, approximately 120 locations, why that wouldn't be like one of the first things we would tackle. It's the second task on track 3.
Oh, second task, okay.
And I know you got it as a task, but you don't have it starred. I would say that would be one of the first things that we want to do.
Because I think this will be based on the phasing too. I think we will provide guidance of where this could be placed. We have locations, like approximate locations, but this needs to be reviewed. And I think this is based on a phasing. If you prioritize this to be in the highest priority, we will suggest some prioritization. We'll suggest prioritization based on our understanding, but ultimately, it's your decision how you.
Again, obviously the model would tell us otherwise if it's true or not, but if you just did that, it sounds like we get the water flowing better with the system we even have right now.
Sure.
It will
By
improve.
better positioning.
Yeah. Yeah, that will definitely improve.
Steve, wouldn't we do that when we were resurfacing the roads in that general area?
No, this would be more work on the stormwater system. That, we could slope the roads, obviously, but this, I think he's talking more
Yeah, I mean,
about
it makes good sense, right?
Yeah,
It's probably
So-
not expensive to do it either.
One of the aspects also why we cannot say this would be priority. I think the priority would be these first two, is because let's say if you add these pipes, missing pipe, and if you add then you're exposing this to the tidal conditions as well at this point. if you don't have constructed track 2. If you don't construct these wells and to reconnect to inject in the ground, when you add these pipes, you're going to expose much more to tidal. So during high tide, this will be difficult to drain.
You're saying there's no place for the water to go.
Yeah.
Even if we get more into the system, there's no place.
Yes, it will not be,
Yeah.
it may not do much.
Makes sense.
So that's the consideration, but again, we can look in the details. We did a detailed discussion, 2 meetings with, Alberto, if you want to just update.
Let me just, I guess, quickly introduce myself. I have some background in stormwater modeling, but my main background is regulatory. And my firm, Chen Moore, our background is in design and construction of stormwater retrofit projects, stormwater improvement projects for
I'm
municipal
sorry, could you
clients.
say your name and the company?
Alberto Pisani with Chen Moore. Stormwater retrofit projects all over the state. So that's our role in the team, is to provide permittability review, constructability review, cost estimating moving forward. So preliminarily now at this stage, we had some meetings with regulatory agencies just to define the concept, let them know this is what we're thinking, identify if there's any red flags. So at this stage, just to document that, it's a tried and true concept. In fact, we're designing a handful for other clients at this moment, pump station with drainage wells. But the key concern for the county is water quality. So they're going to look at, anything that we could do to minimize discharges to the bay. They look at favorably. So this concept is going to look favorably in their eyes. And for the state, for DEP, they regulate, that was to establish the criteria for Giorgio to determine how much water he could pump in each individual well. They regulate that. They regulate the pressure that you could apply to each well. So we had those meetings and we established those criteria for Giorgio, and that's how he, came sized to the system at this stage. Now moving forward, we'll look at the details of where we're going to locate them and how much interconnect is needed, and what's constructible, what's not constructible. So we'll provide that support to Giorgio as he moves into the next stage.
So I have a dumb question. How long would it take to get permits?
It could vary. 60 days, 90 days.
On one hand,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, give me
Well,
an
it really depends. The drainage well permits are typically really quick.
all the permits so we can start construction.
Well, we don't have a design to know what.
Assuming you had the design, how long is it going to take to get permits?
We're not holding you to the,
Yeah.
within a,
It could
Approximately.
be 60 days, 90 days, 120
Fine, okay,
days.
so it's.
So,
reasonable.
Let's say 120 days
Okay,
conservative.
since you're involved with construction, a system like this, we said, okay, go ahead, we want to do this, how fast could it get done? Assuming the materials were available, the pumps were available, how long would it take to build it?
I don't know if I want
To
to.
build the whole system, to
Sorry?
commit to a number.
I don't
Just for the permitting.
No,
we-
forget the permit. Now we spend 60, 90 days, we got a permit. Now, fine, we break ground, we start, and all of a sudden
Well,
we're finished.
are we
How long
talking
between
one
start and finish?
module, all 6 modules? How much of the pipe?
Ed, I don't
I
think
can
he's
give
got
you a
it.
number. It's not going to mean
I
anything.
mean, like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years,
No. I mean,
6 months, 1 year?
I
What are you talking about?
would say depend on the contractor. Typically, these projects are like within 1 year.
1 year, okay,
Or
that's
from the bidding
Like
to.
if you were to build
Fine, that's what I'm asking.
one pump and one.
All right,
you could do
guys,
that.
let's not get too, so within a 2-year window between pump, but with permits and all the rest of the stuff, 2 years, if we said, put the foot on the gas, we could probably get the project done in a 2.5 year window. Is that what you're saying? Is that a reasonable number?
Yeah, 2 years
Okay,
would be
great.
reasonable.
Not enough, Ed?
That's what I'm trying to
Okay,
say.
great.
So
on.
we're at the point where we will be pre-submitting or pre-applying to the FDEP with the results. Once we finalize this, we will send them the models and the results so that they can approve the injection. And after this, I don't think that's really one of the critical aspects, because we're relying on this. And also wanted to mention that based on our discussion with FDP, we were more conservative that we will be pumping part of this to the bay. But based on our discussion, we are confident that we can accomplish the task to pump all in the ground, and we will also, before we end the project here, we'll send the application, so we'll be in communication, so we will have early answers. And also, they will require the report, and they also require the approval from the county, right?
Yes, the county reviews first, and then.
They require, and
But we have to also agree how, the whole concept here is that we're doing the modular, right? The 6 locations. You don't have to build them all at once.
Right.
So you're going to build
We
them
understand.
one at a time.
We can hotspot it if we
have to
chose.
kind of agree what we want to build first, or a series of, so.
yeah, and that's a good point also. We discussed that we will need the guidance from you at what costs are you looking, because right now we are kind of blind about this. And if we have that, we can provide a better understanding of the phasing. We'll get into more details about the cost. So it will be helpful if you give us some orientation. Are you planning to build everything together, or
Yeah,
all?
I don't get that much time. Get it done.
Hold on for a second. Luis, you had a question?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wonderful presentation. I think it's very much more understandable than other what we've seen. But I wanted to point out a couple of things. Number one,
I'm sorry.
Well, sorry,
The audience won't be able
Luis,
to
you gotta say your name and please
I'm
come on.
sorry. I apologize. I should have known that.
It's all right.
Thanks,
Luis de la
Jocelyn.
Cruz, 640 Allendale.
Thank you.
But
A couple of things.
we're not gonna open this up for a huge amount of conversation, so if you just go ahead, please, quick, go ahead. I'm sorry. Ask your question, excuse me. I didn't mean to interrupt, sorry.
Okay. On one of these pages I saw where we said observed conditions were compared against results from the ACOM. Exactly what observations, and where did you?
So this, going back to this image, the village, in September 27, they went and delineated the flooding that occurred on September 27, 2022, along with the depth.
Okay, so that's my point. Okay, so
Yeah.
in 2022, none of our system was maintained, and it hadn't been maintained for 15 years. So that observation is not really valid for you or for ACOM, because ACOM, I think, did the same thing. I think that we need to observe now where, our Public Works Department has really jumped on it and is doing a really good job of keeping the system maintained and seeing where the actual flooding actually is, right?
No, absolutely agree. I think that's what we mentioned earlier, that we want to have understanding so we can do refinement of what our analysis, because and then that's one of the point I think that I was showing this previous image, because I said that there is location that really have a good flow.
Yeah, so, okay, so the other thing that I want to point out is that when we get involved with just talking about engineering and removing water and stuff like that, and how it's easy, and then we talk outfalls, I think it should be the goal of the Village of Key Biscayne as a barrier island to be a good steward of our Biscayne Bay, and eventually, one by one, eliminate every single one of those outfalls, and not send any water out into the Biscayne Bay, and send it all underground. Okay? That is something that we should all, and you
that's
guys
not what
need
we're
to
talking
start
about tonight.
thinking about that.
But Luis, the current design he's discussing is not putting anything in.
No, I get it,
Right.
but I mean,
But
those
we-
discussions
we-
about keeping the outfalls and stuff like that, please keep in mind that I think the residents want to get rid of those outfalls.
Okay, we got that under.
Another day.
Thank you, under advisement, appreciate it.
No, absolutely. I think that's really important, because you need to show example for environmental stewardship. No discharges in the bay. That's remarkable if you do accomplish.
I want to say one quick thing. Back in 2009, when we first wrote the first stormwater master plan for Miami Beach, the theory of that was to divorce the city completely from outfalls. This has been something that's been going on since 2009. Discussions with Durham, to try to understand why is it that we cannot inject deep. When you look at that, then you divorce yourself completely from outfalls. You don't need them at all.
Yeah.
But the problem, and what I was hoping I asked Mr. Pisani there, is to get a feel of what is the maximum capacity allowed to discharge directly into the aquifer.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the problem that we had in Miami Beach was that we were told this was not going to be permitted. I know it was 2009. I know the subject of resiliency started coming up right now. Recently, all these discussions, and everybody's now designing to still discharge into the Biscayne Bay. I think a responsible design would be to inject. The question is, how much?
Yeah, so you have one case already approved for permitting in
Yes.
the Garden District, so.
Yeah, but how much were you discharging? 15 CFS? Because we're talking
They
about
ranked
a
it
lot of water here.
1,200 per foot of head. 1,200, if they apply 1 foot of head, they will have 1,200 per well. I haven't looked at the
Okay.
report or.
But and that's fine. But and the question I have is, I mean, great. You got the water there ponding. You'll be injecting as the alarm triggers, right? But the question is, how much are you allowed to discharge? And we spoke about permitting times, but my question is it permit-able to discharge this amount of water
Each
into the
well,
aquifer?
you can't exceed 9 feet of head.
9
on
feet
each
of head,
well
right?
If you're in a coastal community. So
9
for Miami
feet, okay,
Beach,
so how much is that?
Miami Beach is a very urbanized, much more urbanized than
Far
Key
more.
Biscayne. The volume, you just couldn't possibly inject all that volume in Miami Beach. But I also wouldn't suggest to eliminate your outfalls. I mean, you're always going to need the outfalls.
I
You
understand.
want to maximize what you can inject
So
within the regulatory
it's
limits.
not a question of will,
Yes.
it's a question of the will of this council, or the will of is that we cannot because of physics, and we cannot because of permitting issues. We can only discharge so much into the aquifer. We won't be allowed to discharge more. And that's what was my question.
We have, that was the purpose of our discussion with FDEP, and that was also originally when we started looking into what kind of model to use. We have a detailed groundwater model, surface and groundwater model.
You went through that in the first phase.
Yes,
In concept, he got that approved.
Yeah.
So yes, we can discharge, and we show this, and we will be communicating with FDEP about this. They said basically there is no
limit?
The limitation is the mounding that occurs. And also there is limitations if there is a public water supply, which you don't have. Withdrawal
So
from the
just to be clear, it's not a volume issue, it's a head pressure issue.
It's a head pressure, yeah.
Okay, so Fernando,
Which limits your
Yeah, no,
volume.
it is.
Okay.
Which,
That means
for practical
it limits your
purposes,
volume,
limits
correct.
volume.
Good, yeah.
And also is a cost issue, because if you start, you have to
You have to inject,
higher
go ahead.
pressure and all of that, and you also O&M issue, operation and maintenance.
Right.
And so yeah, there is some balance.
So what's the maximum head pressure then?
9 feet.
Thank you.
Excuse me. I don't know, Mike, if it was you, Black and Veatch, or it was ACOM, but you presented us, somebody did, they called it the white paper, to show us why the injection wells were not a good idea, and why the system with ACOM provided is a good idea. And one of the reasons they said these injection wells, shallow injection wells, were not a good idea was because of mounding. They said, with all this water mounding, there's a limitation, I guess, on the separation of the wells as far as mounding goes, mounding being water accumulating under the ground.
Yes, mounting.
How does this address that, and why is that different than what ACOM or Black and Veatch said about mounding, which would not be acceptable?
Yeah, so our approach was to have the most advanced groundwater model that can be most advanced groundwater model that can be accepted by FDEP, and that's what we
So you're
discussed.
saying your model does not show excessive mounding?
It shows mounding, but below the limits.
Permissible
Yeah,
mounding.
permissible mounding. So that's a big distinction, because yeah, it could be a concern The mounting, I think that's one of the aspects for many recharge, what they call them recharge application, whether you're adding water in any way or the stormwater. But in our discussion with FDP, that was one of the reasons. Originally, we were suggesting 35 CFS because of the conservative approach. Now we have a better understanding that we would be allowed. And also to confirm that once we complete it with the analysis, we will be sending these reports. Actually, they said that we can send the analysis even prior to the application.
So, but,
The application,
So,
but,
carrying on with that, Mike, was that original white paper based on the 3.2 inches per hour system that was originally proposed? And maybe that's why, for the 3.2 inch system initially proposed, there'd be too much mounting, but it wasn't recalculated on the 2 inch system or the 1 inch system, do you know?
I don't know that offhand, but I can look into it.
No,
So that's part of our,
It was not on the 3.2.
What?
It was not on the
So-
3.2. It was way past when we have made the decision not to use the 3.2. I don't know exactly when.
I'm talking when the white paper came out was
No, no,
on
no.
3.2.
And I'm answering, no, it was not on the.
You're saying
3.2.
it was already reduced to the 2 inch?
We were already looking at 2 inches, correct?
And they were saying it was still too much mounting for the injection pumps.
If that's what it says in the white paper.
but I also believe that there was far more injection wells. So it was it.
Well, injection wells to take this amount of water off.
Right, but
And they were taking less water than Georgia was taking. They were taking, well, they were actually with 2 inch, they were taking off.
They were taking 155.
Yeah.
yes.
guys, as they get closer together, the mounding becomes more of an issue, right? So if you have.
That's the difference, 155 versus 65.
So we only
The
have
155, that's when the mounting was the problem.
I would imagine, I mean, I don't remember the words, but I'm
So
assuming.
that was one of
that's
the limiting factors why they didn't consider shallow injection wells, because the number required and the placement wouldn't work out with the mounting.
That was one of their factors, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the things we'll
I
do
mean,
is
that's my memory, but my memory is shot. But what I little remember is
also
we'll be reviewing that compared to this as well. So
Sorry?
we'll be reviewing that compared to this design.
And
then
check
coming
what
up
they
with-
said about the mounting.
So they did have concerns with mounting.
Was that you or ACOM?
They provided the white paper and we reviewed it.
Sorry?
They provided the white paper and we reviewed it.
Okay,
So, and we'll provide a comparison.
Thank
same
you.
thing.
Okay.
that was my question.
yeah, another aspect, and their concern in this white paper was also the sea level rise.
Yeah.
So these were the two main concerns, the sea level rise and the mounding. With the mounding, I believe we can resolve it, and I have illustration. This is an outline of. This is an outline. It might be different from the other slides because they moved, and so right now these
Giorgio,
are correct.
So for the public, we're looking this in plan, so we're looking down.
In plan, yes.
Okay, in plan, so that people understand that this is looking down, and this will be all subterranean in the ground.
This will be in the ground except the electric panel.
The electric panel.
Yeah. With this below the ground, that would not cause any,
One second.
issues in terms of aesthetic issues or how it looks, but the panel will stay. The approximate size of the well, along with the different pipes, are approximately 9 by 9 feet. The approximate size of the pump station is 14 by 9. And then there is also, that's actually the existing manhole, this on McIntyre Street, and there was this existing well. We're considering we can convert it, but it's not necessary because basically we need to create a new well with casing, and it's appropriate. So this is an example, and this is how it would look underground, which probably is not going to be visible for anybody to notice. It will be just look as a manhole.
So depth-wise, what are we looking at total depth?
Oh, 100 to 120.
No,
feet.
that's not the well, the hardware. So does it look like it's 12?
11 feet
5,
max.
so call it 12 feet.
11. So that's one of the
So Giorgio, in volume, we're 9 by 9 by 12 and 9 by 14.
14 by 12, yeah. Slightly different, but
And
yes.
we could put this in the road, in the right of way, right? We could put this
Yeah.
in, so we could put these in the streets. We don't have to put these in people's yards or
On the right of way.
in the right of way.
Yeah, we looked at the right of way, we identified some location, we need to go over those with the team, see if these are feasible or
Yeah, that's where we got to do utility conflicts and
Right.
checks. That's
And this is an 8 feet hydrodynamic separation of the sediments.
So for,
Also below
again,
the-
for purposes of everybody's understanding, this is effectively this is like a weir, right?
Yeah, it's circular motion that makes the sediment settle.
So the sediment drops to the bottom, clean
Yeah.
water goes out, so
Yeah, and the clear water is injected in the ground. So that's there is a 90-second requirement by Miami-Dade County, and it also helped not to cause sedimentation in the well. So that's and of course because of the head pressure that's applied, you'll be able to measure it and understand when you need to do service because these will be eventually there is going to be sediment, even
yeah,
though
these have to be cleaned out. So that's, the lower section is a sump?
yes.
Okay.
So that's the, conceptually, this is, we will provide the details. Here is the approximate well location. The red circles, actually the red circles, originally, they represent basically two things. This is basically the cone of influence of the groundwater mounting, where we have approximately 0.1 feet increase at the periphery and higher in the middle. I'll show another image that. And also, we wanted to mention that the pumped flow changes the flow direction of the pipes. If the natural, without the pumping, the flow direction can go in different directions based on where the pooled water is. In this, or the gradient, in this case, the flow directions in the lines will be towards the wells, because that will be the lowest point. So this also means that the original outline of what is zone 1, it will not be anymore zone 1. It will be different.
So Steve, I think this is the point where you just wanted to add, so we could, effectively, we're gonna be able to amortize it, assuming we do something like this, we can amortize it over a greater amount of houses.
Yeah, and George and I had that conversation, and I think you recall, in his first presentation, he actually had 7 wells.
Right.
And actually, if you look at what's UI 3 right now, he actually pushed that up further to the northeast.
Right.
And then we said, hey, you're operating outside the zone. But if you look there, there's obviously a significant amount of flooding. You're also seeing there's a lot of flooding, up where the Palmwood up to Heather, that little nook. So
just a
we
question.
could talk about covering the whole area.
If we would extend these circles so that they weren't crossing over each other
Overlap, yeah.
and remove the overlap, would that allow us to amortize the project over a greater amount of homes, correct?
Yes, especially if you reconnect, because some of these are missing connections I believe on the.
So Steve, we could push this out, right?
Well, possibly, yeah. I mean, you can see all the pipes that are missing here.
Right, yeah.
That shows.
So here's
It's
the
not,
missing.
it's not free for sure, but
Yeah.
it just.
Once you create that connection, though, the water will flow.
Right.
Yeah, so this will be preferable to have these connected and have the.
But we just have unnatural notches in our zone.
Right.
The one down to the southwest kind of makes sense because we've got the Harbor Lane loop there, but it makes no sense up there in the little thing up the northwest and then obviously the northeast doesn't make sense either.
Right.
Yeah, and please keep in mind that the effect of the pumping extends beyond this red circle. So it's not just the red circle, it extends through all the pipes that are connected. And we have this in the model, shows the flow directions at the peak. We're really interested in the peak flow, how the water moves. So we will provide the details about that.
So this is significant because if we would expand the zone, we could theoretically get a greater amount we could reduce the cost per home because we can amortize the project over a greater amount of houses, right? So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason we moved them only within zone 1 was based on the previous discussion that we said.
That was your assignment, yeah.
Yeah. So, and so here is the location. So this square is 25 by 25. So let's say this is the footprint of the pump.
And this is Harbor Park for people's.
Yeah, the Harbor
So
Park.
this is the what is that? The northeast corner of the Harbor Park. Okay.
Yeah, so one can be placed there, and they accept quite a bit of flow because of the flooding. This entire Harbor Street was flooded the other day,
Right.
significant. Okay, so here is the pumping rates. These are the pumping rates based on the model, based on the flooding and based on activation of the pump, allowing only up to 15 CFS.
Pump 6 and plan, is that the one that's on Harbor Drive?
Pump 5 is the Harbor Drive.
Okay, so
Pump 1 is the school.
pump 1 is a school. No,
Pump
pump
1 is
6.
the school.
Where's pump 6?
Pump 6 is in the middle.
Right there,
So
it's a squiggly one.
I'm just wondering where it is in plan.
It's the one that's freaking out.
yeah, this is the one that experienced some competition with.
McIntyre.
That's the one that's basically where near Joe's house.
No, that's, no,
It
Mayor
is.
doesn't have one, and that's the problem.
He has one. No, he will have one.
UI 2 is the one that's near the mayor's house.
Basically put it right as.
So you
Put it on his lawn.
6. This one is in the middle, and I guess
He's
this
won
one.
one, so we might as well give him
Put him on his lawn, yeah.
But in any way, you can see an example of what's important here to notice that these pumps will work not more than 2 hours for peak conditions. And they can be switched maybe for 1 hour to work both of them, and for the rest of the time, just one.
So Giorgio, just so yeah, I'm not sure I follow this slide. So why is I understand the ones that are not erratic. Why is this one number 6 so erratic? Is that because there's so much water there and we have laminar flow? That's
No. So this one, the pump has this wet well where water collects and accumulates, and we have a control there. If it's below 6, stop the pump until it's full, and then if it goes above -2, start the pump, and it very quickly. So in this case, we have. This indicates that the flow comes slowly from different, and it's not.
So this pump is turning on and off, on and off, on
Yeah.
and off.
Yes, and that depends how these are operated. But I think we will provide additional. This is an example of how the flow in the pumps looks.
So, quick question for you. So, just narrow in on number 1, top left. I'm seeing it operating. I'll just start at 5 and go into 20. I'm seeing it operating for 10 hours. You're saying 2. Are you saying that it only kicks on at a certain point?
Well, so yeah, this operates at around because there is continuous inflow, and we're keeping this at -2. The level. So if it exceeds -2, it starts operating, and it operates for some time, and it stops again. And it does not operate when there is no water above.
So Giorgio, so for Steve's question, this is the lapse time in hours. So if the flat at the top of the flat curve at the highest peak, that's actually when the pump is running full.
Full.
Right.
That bolts
So
are
that's
on.
why that time is really short, because it's only 2 minutes. It looks like it's only 2 hours because
Proximity.
you're 5 hours. If you look at that, right, the thing's basically only running for 2 hours on that particular.
Yeah.
So that's when it's running. So the rest of the time is just that is just dissipating the water when it's not running. It's dropping in the sun.
It still runs, but it runs at reduced because it runs at reduced
So they're variable speed.
capacity. Yeah, that was the assumption. But I think we can look at the constant, and I mean that's like not significant.
So, explain that, because it still has to run. I mean, it just can't not run. The water's got to go somewhere. So
It goes in the wet well till it fills up.
Yeah. So this one, because this shows
that's a
that.
lot of water.
Sorry?
That's a lot of water, though.
No, but I'm looking at pump 4
Well,
and
talking-
pump 3.
I'm just narrowing in on 1 so that we can get a singular focus. 'Cause
Oh, and pump 1 is looking like it's using more, running more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But basically pump 4, pump 3, and pump 4 are used very rarely, not rarely, but very short period of time. Pump 6, it's until 10 hours it doesn't turn on at all, and then it runs on and off.
So the other concept is that this is a 24-hour rainfall. So the peak is at this particular time where it's exactly the flooding, but there is rainfall that starts very slowly and and it goes up and then it recedes quickly.
How many inches in that 24-hour period?
This is 6.56.
Thank you.
This is the 5-year event.
Thank you.
We will provide also, because we mentioned we'll do sensitivity analysis, so we will have in the report the 10-year event, the 25-year event, and the 100-year event. I think the 100-year event is very important for various grants and applications. So we will provide those. This is how this looks. You can see that the legend is not extremely all visible. This is at the peak flow. This is at exactly the peak. In the left image shows the flooded system, and the right image shows that basically it's much shallow, much more shallow. There is no, like, basically you can look at 0.3 feet maximum flooding when you have the pumps operating, which is tolerable. And it's not also tolerable, but it recedes extremely quickly. It goes to the peak and takes like 1-2 hours with the pump to recedes back to the. Now all this will it would work, assuming that all the catch basins are at the level to accept ponding water. So there is one thing is the pumping that needs to have enough capacity, but the other thing is that the catch basins, the inlets, they have to be able to provide this inflow into the pipes.
That's why I brought that up before.
Yeah.
It's got to
Yes.
go somewhere.
Yeah.
This is the summary of the missing pipe. This is based on the survey by KCI. By the way, if I look at the different surveys, there is some differences in terms of the missing pipes, but this is the latest survey from 2025. The yellow are the missing pipes. We again want to emphasize the importance of having green infrastructure on a parcel level, reduce any impervious areas, no driveways, should be gravel, it should allow somehow this to reduce the overall, so that's like management on a parcel level. And again, the feasibility, we believe we have feasible system. Now going back to the boundaries, what are the tidal boundaries? Because we did analysis for that as well. By the way, the previous analysis that we're running for the 2050 intermediate, and we will be providing this information for intermediate low, and intermediate high. The no intermediate, based on the data from NOAA, it increases the water level by 1,069 feet in 2050. It's important how we are calculating the 2025. It says 1,069, counting from 2025. This is for next 25 years. And they specify that how do we compute 2025? We use October average so that gives you representation of king tides and.
Georgia, before you go further, back to new lines, looking at 3.9. Are the lines, I assume, will be in the center of the street like they are today? The new lines you're going to put in, connecting lines?
Yeah.
So the next question is, how would that affect us doing underground electric? In other words, can we go, you wouldn't be ready to do this, we'll say, for 6 months or whatever, your plans, permits. Could we move forward with underground electric at the same time without worrying about too much conflict with you jacking, boring underground street in the middle of the street for the pipes? Or we have conflict?
Yeah, we'll be able to look at, in our plan is Mike provided underground utilities. We have the underground utilities, how they are planned, so we.
No, I'm talking about, we don't have underground, I'm talking about putting our electric underground before you put your system in. How would that affect us?
We have the plans, right?
We have a set of plans, yes.
Yeah, we have the plans, we know where these are located, so we'll look at each street individually.
And normally the electric's gonna be above the storm sewer lines.
Yeah, it will be shallow.
Normally, okay. Thank you.
It will be shallow, these will be a little bit deeper. So yeah, we'll have to kind of coordinate.
I'm sorry, thank you very much.
Yeah. These are the tidal that we are using currently for analysis. These are derived from the observed October tidal conditions. And here is the outline of what exactly we're simulating and how we simulate the design events. We look at the peak volumes. That's something that we discussed in the past, so I'll just skip this slide. Here is the mounding computed by the groundwater model. You can see the location of injection wells, the vectors with the direction where this goes, and you can see also the interaction. So this would be a permittable. We identified the lower. So one detail, the FDP looks at the groundwater table. The groundwater table will be increasing very little. The subsurface head differential will increase because we have 5 layers. And as you go up, they're less pervious. So there's going to be some of these, the aquifer will be under pressure, but they will be dissipating to the site. And this is something that we will be able to have FDP approved. But this is the concept how this moves. Like the water is going to be moving into the 100 feet below the ground where you have 10,000 total dissolved solids. It's also a brackish water. And here is again the optimization strategy to reduce costs. Optimize the existing conveyance, reconnect, optimize the location and discharge rates. I think we're there already. We are planning for the 90 CFS, which will provide excess capacity for the 5-year event. And this will be used as a backup. Pumps will be used as a backup. They also will be available for peak flows, for faster drainage. And this is the optional, preserve and upgrade existing outfalls. We discussed this. So here is the currently preliminary modular cost. We looked at that. We're not completed with this because we had changes of the concept. We were 35 CFS and we had how much we inject. So right now for the current which we think we're close to final concept, we based on the contractor, discussions with contractors, discussions with other cost estimating professionals, we believe that the injection well will cost around 200,000, most likely lower, but 200,000 budget price. The pump station, we priced it with the additional dewatering controls. We priced it 3.5. That's very different from what we originally came up a month, and we had the slide that's showing 800,000. This will require more detailed recalculation. Maybe the price is going, most likely, we believe the price may go down, but there is some uncertainty. We were committed to provide the level 5, which has like plus minus 50%. But we would like to give it as accurate as possible, so we'll spend significant amount of time in the next period to try to provide the best cost for the pump station, because this is the major component. The sediment control structures, these are more or less standard. For the 90-second retention time is approximately 400,000. Maybe there will be changed, but this is pretty much well established. The well and these are good. The 24 inches stormwater pipe network is, if it's in a trench, it will be $500 per foot. Based on FDOT cost indices, this is also a function of underground utilities. So I'm providing these numbers with a disclaimer that we will be making these more accurate. It's not that we start with very low, but then we gradually go up, or it's basically, we're trying to provide the best cost estimate at the time so that you can provide feedback. What would you like to build first, which is known as the target value design. Like we are the designers and the people that finance the project, they work together to come up with, you know, like maybe you'll skip one of the wells if you want to reduce. Maybe you'll say like we don't need well number 6. It's redundant. We want to spread it further. So you provide the cost basis for us, and then we'll be working with you to clarify what can be prioritized, and so and then so 3.5 million.
I want to make sure it's clear that everyone understood what he just said. He says, do you want to give me a target price and I'll build to it?
Right.
Or do we want him to
I didn't hear him
develop
say
a
that.
requirements-based system and he'll cost it out?
I didn't hear him say that. What I heard him say was, do you want to do it all at once? Or do you want to do some now or not do it all together? But he's giving us a price here of actually $30 million for the proposed system for all, this whole zone, if you want to call it Zone 1 modified. And the question is, do we want to do it all at one time or do we want to phase it? I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
More so than anything else. That's what I, maybe we understand the wrong thing, Steve, but that's what I understand. In other words,
I also think that there's a conversation about working with Giorgio to develop. If
oh
we
yeah, I
want to.
understand it, but I'm just saying what we hear today,
Yeah,
you're telling me to do the level of service we've asked you to do, based on what you found out, that you think 30 million is a reasonable number. It's not going to be 60 million. It's not going to be like ACOM.
Yeah, so, yeah, because you already provided some guidance, you don't like the 320, so what we are asking here, can we also discuss that? What is approximate, maybe we can propose, maybe we can improve and refine design in a way that's more or less satisfies some priority aspects, but maybe we can,
So, but
I
guys,
guess
right
go
now,
back to the thing. So
right now the scope
is
is
30 million a reasonable number? Obviously, we don't have final numbers or anything else, but based on your experience and Alberto dealing with the contractors, et cetera, is this a reasonable number or is this a bait and switch number?
Gentlemen, Alberto, you haven't had the privilege of some of the interaction. So we had a previous project, and the cost got it grew substantially from the original budget.
He knows the project.
I know. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, I've been,
So
He knows it well.
I watch Key Biscayne
He
TV.
was
Okay,
in Bern. He
okay.
knows it well.
Anyway, so what we're trying to be very conscious of, okay, is that we don't want to be putting numbers out in the public, okay? Somebody latch on a number and then hear it and then realize that that number is going to change substantially. So if you're not comfortable with that right now, that's also fine. I mean, that's a fine answer.
This year is not intended to be an all-in number.
So what?
It's not an all-in number of the whole solution. What we're doing now at the concept level, understanding that cost is the main driver of this project,
Right.
planning level numbers, so Giorgio could determine, you know, are we reasonable? If the solution came out to 120 million, it wouldn't make sense for us to continue because it's already more expensive, right? So we're, you know, it's
Here's what I see.
order of magnitude
Yeah.
to kind of guide the decision making on where,
That's my
you know,
question.
on how to.
How reasonable is this number to make a decision based on? That's all.
But,
I don't expect it to be exactly 30 million. But my question is it within 10%, you think? 5%?
well, we
Can you deliver this?
No, it would be
we committed to
plus or minus
50%.
100%.
No, we can't do, guys, that doesn't work for us. We can't be 30 million times 1.5, okay? That's 45 million. So that's not an answer that we're looking
I mean,
for.
we haven't yet.
And if you don't feel comfortable yet, that's okay, you can say, we're not comfortable yet.
But you don't think this is a realistic number? Or you do?
From this exercise, I'm gonna have to get from Giorgio the specific locations of the pump stations. We're gonna look at the impact of where we're cutting the road to build pipes, connections, all that, so we could add restoration costs,
I thought
contingencies and all.
we're jacking boring. What kind of restoration costs
Are
we
you
have?
jacking and boring everything?
Maybe not going, it's not going to be possible to do everywhere. Yeah,
Here's
so
can
what
I just say one quick thing? I'm sorry, everybody's talking. I just
Please,
want
go
to say
ahead,
one
Fernando.
quick
Yeah.
thing.
Please.
I think we're looking at two different benchmarks when it comes down to cost. I understand council our interest in knowing the cost, and clearly we want to know because that's the reason why we started.
That's why we're doing
This
this.
whole study, exactly. But I mean, I think that we also need to understand or see the difference between the two designs. AECOM's design was more robust, conservative, more centralized type of thing. And you guys, you have a more, what I see, more of a localized boutique diagnostic type of design. That doesn't mean one is bad or the other one's the other. I think the expenses are driven differently from the two projects. From the robust design, we know exactly what it is because we're going to lay out pipe, and that pipe is going to get the water out, and it's big, it's robust, it's strong. Yours is, let's grab the area that's kind of sick, and let's put little pump stations around, and let's work it out. But let's accept it. Let's also admit that the other design, the more robust approach, not design AECOM thing, but more robust application, is more predictable in the cost. This one, it's a little bit harder to predict because you have to work a lot of different parameters. A lot of different things need to go in. So I just want for council to understand, I know you want to get to a cost, but I just don't see it, they can provide a realistic cost at this point. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
at least
correct.
anybody.
One question is, so far, because we know three components will be there. We need a well, we need a pump station,
Right.
and we need a sediment control. So we try to clarify these three. But in addition to this, we were talking about additional 7,000 feet. Are you going to be interested to build all of them? Let's say if the cost is 500
Well,
feet.
we want the same result.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Apples to apples.
Hey, George, I would even add, I mean, I looked at your previous slide, and I just want to make sure, you don't have the slip lining in here. I noticed that.
No, it's not included.
You mentioned some SCADA requirements.
Some
That's
what?
not in there. I don't know whether you put labor in here or not. I'm not sure. There's going to be, like Alberto said, road restoration, maybe road raising. That's got to happen. We didn't talk water and sewer conflict or anything like that. You also mentioned that we might need to upgrade the outfalls to 24 inches and it's a connect to injection well system and supplement discharge. So that also requires some sort of switch that goes from one system to the other. So there's a lot more to this cost than you've shown.
Yes,
I
so
think that's what Alberto's trying to say.
Right, I mean, ultimately, you'll get, the final cost will have a much higher level of accuracy than.
So when we're completed with our project, which you guys aren't done yet, okay, and we're not expecting you to be done yet, our goal is to be able to take a solid estimate, okay, to the council, saying we believe this system is going to cost this amount of money, plus or minus 10%. So we can compare it to the AECOM project and say, okay, guys, what do you want to do? And that's what we're tasked to do. So, and if you're not prepared to give us those exact numbers at this time, that's totally acceptable because that's not where you are on the budget, on the cycle. But we appreciate the idea that we're getting preliminary numbers because it helps us think through the process. And yes, you're correct, Giorgio. If we could give you some feedback, and maybe we can amortize this over, as Steve discussed, we can amortize this over a greater amount of houses, which gives us, again, so it's not exactly zone one. We know zone one had, I think, 250 houses approximately. Yeah, 255. So if we can get this over 300, that reduces the cost substantially per house, which is really the goal at the end of the day, right? So, so when you guys get there, and if we can tweak it to change this, that makes perfect sense. But we appreciate where you are at this particular time. And Alberto, the greater level of clarity you get, please communicate that as much as possible. And do you have anything else that you want to add, guys? I mean, tonight? Okay. But before you get there, do you all have anything else you want to add?
yes, I want to add something about the cost. So typically, the way we get costs, we start with a concept, and we call this opinion for probable cost. Then as we get with the drawing, we give them on a contractor, and they can tell you basically for 5 minutes, okay, it's going to cost me this much. So they give you a price, correct price, like a very close price. At this point, we don't have a drawing. We don't know.
You got to get in the design.
Yes, you need to have
You
at
have to get on
least
design.
30 to 60% design as a basis to, because this will show which portion of the road has to be reconstructed, which pipe is, which are the utilities needs to be considered. So yeah, it's kind of really preliminary, and we're trying our best to give you a guidance number, which I think is very important to know this modular number, because it's the starting point, really.
It gives us a sense of where we're going, and
Yeah.
that's the goal. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'll
we're
ask
not
another
blowing it
question.
out of the water, no
Right.
pun intended yet. We don't know that.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, quick question if I may.
Please,
Follow up.
but before you get there,
Yeah.
guys, is there anything else you want to add? Because
No.
we didn't let you finish the. Is this the last slide of the presentation?
No, he's got a couple more slides.
No, but
I think.
we're still talking about the cost
Still
here.
got more
Okay.
slides.
All right. So
Oh, we
Ed,
have the issue about the generations. We,
Well, let's finish this.
Okay,
Fred,
go.
you want to finish?
I just had a quick question, and
Sure.
this is more of an added factor to it that I think, I don't know, I mean, you talked about a lot of catch basins, obviously, because we have to capture flow. Is there an opportunity to look at the roadway and by modifying some of the profiles? I know AECOM did some of that, but I think at the end of the day, you know, we can continue to bail water out of the boat, but, you know, let's face it, folks, the water's rising, whether chaotically or exponentially, it doesn't matter, it's rising. So we have to protect our kind of delta of our floor. And I think that in itself, in the future, when you look at that, take this into consideration, please, is that I think that by having more pitch, we don't need so many catch areas,
Yes.
right? Would you
Yeah,
agree?
that's
So we want to maybe look at maybe raising the road. That's not an expensive approach. We just have to harmonize with driveways. We did it for West Avenue, and that's pretty urban. So take a look at that and see by maybe modifying some of the profiles, maybe we don't need 100 catch basins. Maybe we need 60, you know?
yeah, so that's again going back to the images I show. That's a great example, and that's also the green infrastructure involves flow on the surface. Like in the old times where people didn't have this, they would just direct the way the street is so that it can be drained naturally. So that's a really good, inexpensive way to.
Right,
That's
and-
one of the
and
best ways.
A lot of good, beautiful
redirect the flow.
plans, and we don't want
Yeah.
airport runways here. We want beautiful plans and.
Yeah.
Right?
Saying recapture your swells is what
Right.
he's saying. Without
Exactly.
saying the words.
Well, I don't know. Well,
So that we have a better absorption in our swells.
we have an identity in this island, right? And our identity is not a pipe underground, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So
It's
in-
important for us to have that, but overall, we are a beautiful village, and we want to keep it that way. And we want a design that accommodates to that. That is part of your criteria for design as well. Not just throwing in, you know, and creating an airport runway.
right.
No, absolutely.
That's why we're doing everything underground.
No, I got it. Yeah.
Fernando?
You got anything else, Ed?
Thank you.
Back to the modular cost. So now the numbers used here, I understand you don't have drawings or whatever else, but from the numbers you've gotten from contractors, are these reasonable numbers for a pump station, electrical, dewatering, et cetera,
Yeah, so
at 3.5 million?
What I
or
provided
low
to
ball
Giorgio
number?
is cost estimates for similar projects that had small pump stations in the 15, 20 CFS range with drainage wells. And
Are
for
they
example,
current-
it cost
are they
3.5
current
million
estimates?
for the pump, for the installation of the wet well, the structures of the pump station, the electrical panels. That is in line with recent bids that we've
So
received on
this
projects.
is recent, that's what I'm trying to ask.
Yes, yes.
This is not 2-year
The
numbers or
last,
anything else. This
the
is
last
current numbers.
year and a half, 2 years, from 2024 to present.
I'm sorry, how old?
2024 to present. So I pulled.
2024.
I pulled all the.
And you put an
recent
inflation
projects
factor in
that we
there
worked.
for that?
This is just average. This is just from these recent projects. There's no
So this-
escalation built in. We
So
haven't
this
done
doesn't
any of
take
that.
into
We haven't done any of that
consideration
long.
increase in prices over a period of time.
We would account for that in the final cost estimate. Yes.
I'm asking, the numbers today do not take that into consideration.
These numbers, no. These are
Thank you.
just
That was my
recent
question.
projects in.
So, but Giorgio, you and I had a conversation. So Jaffa, for example, we know Jaffa.
Yeah.
So that $200,000 to build a well, that's a number That's a number you got recently by picking up the phone, calling Jaffa
Yeah.
and saying, hey, we're gonna drill da-da-da-da,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
said you're gonna approximately 200 grand, okay. So that's a reason, that's a number they
Yeah.
just got.
20 years ago, he charged me $40,000 for a 24-inch diameter well.
But that was 20 years
Jaffer.
ago. Yeah.
And as we go through the projects, we
Have
also,
the invoice, maybe we could hold them to it.
as we go through the project, we also.
My trash
have,
sheets were a lot more
Mike-
cheap too.
Mike's team, they have a great cost estimating team, Black and Veatch, so we will
Yeah.
be relying on them as well. So we will have
Good.
a variety of opinion.
I think Steve and I and everyone at this, we want to be very careful that if numbers that they would put out in public are substantiated, so that somebody doesn't latch on one of these numbers and we're back in this same
Yeah.
circle, okay? And so, thank you for your honesty. Anybody else have any further questions?
Nope.
Okay, Giorgio, you want to carry on with your conversation about?
I have only one slide that I was discussing of the backup generators, but my understanding is that we looked at the FPNL, the outages on the village of Key Biscayne, but these are more or less for the overhead system. And if you're adding this underground, this will completely change. So we need more information in order to do some risk analysis and the need for backup generations, we will be looking at other communities similar with underground utilities to understand the power outages. Other than that, we discussed the potential 2 locations, and we also discussed the possibility to have a electric battery and to have a different type of we discussed to have a different type of power, not to be diesel generator, because they have lots of issues, and they work, and also either to have a mobile or either to have like electric power with battery, or solar power. So something that needs to, we could possibly recommend 2 locations for that. We don't think we.
And these are the hotspot areas. Obviously, the school, Harbor Park is. Why did you pick Harbor Park as? Is that because that pump station is going to drive a lot of the water on Harbor Drive, or is where we have a major flooding problem?
Yes, major flooding problem. Number 1. Second is it's the key location next to the outfalls, and also there is sufficient amount of space to add. If you don't have space, then it becomes challenging to have you may need to rely on mobile units.
Before you come back for the next meeting, I guess the next month or whenever you're coming back, could you calculate the probability, and again, it's going to be based on, say, the previous 10 years of when you had the above our, level of service, whatever that is, 14 inches, 3 hours, etc., and underground feeders, not aerial, because we're going to have underground, and what the probability of both of them occurring at the same time, come back with a number so we have some idea what we're really talking about.
Yeah, historically, that will be very low probability, but still can.
Well, that'll be a probability, multiply them together, each occurrence.
Eddie just said they were going to do that.
I'm sorry?
He just said they were going to do that. They're going to go to previous other clients where they have underground power.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, we will
I'll
need
turn
more
my hearing
data.
aids a little louder.
Because this is a new condition right now. If you have underground, then you cannot rely on historical data.
Thank you.
So the next steps, we'll continue with, we have a progress meeting next week. We will be looking for submitting the final deliverable number 2 to be completed prior to the council workshop. We will include the details that we just discussed. And we will be working on the final deliverables on the phasing, implementation strategy, and cost management. And your Black and Veatch will prepare comparison criteria, and Chris Miranda will receive proposals for the sewer survey. One thing is that we were looking for feedback from you, which will be helpful in terms of the costs, in terms of some of these items, if they need to be additionally analyzed, if you think that these can be rearranged, so we can provide this analysis and with the team, we can continue our.
So, I mean, I think that, Chris, Steve, the direction to look at the possibility of expanding the project over a greater amount of homes just makes sense. I mean, I don't,
I would suggest, as we're still in the concept phase, let's leave it as is.
okay?
If we choose to go in, if we choose to go in design, we pick this, then I think we can expand it.
Okay,
Right?
that makes sense.
Leave him as is. He's already started that work. He's done his modeling that way.
Okay.
I think it's going to throw a wrinkle in it. Let's leave it as is
All
for
right,
now.
okay, that's fine.
But if we choose to go this way, then I think we can expand the area.
Jojo, for the council meeting, just again, I'm going to reiterate the concept of numbers, okay? Any number that we use at the council meeting is going to be recorded, and the community is going to hear it, and if it's not a good number, please don't put it out there, okay?
And I would suggest, all the things that I read that you're not counting for, that you identify those very clearly, because I don't think you had any labor in there at all. It was all material. And there's some other things. I just took it off your previous slide, which you didn't say.
Yeah.
So that those two have to match. And if you're not going to, I think what you were trying to show is what is the general cost of each one of the well pump systems.
Yeah, that's
That's what you're trying to show.
yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Just make it very clear that that's what you're giving a cost estimate.
Yeah, because we know we need these three. The rest is uncertain. But this is
Any
already
chance getting
certain.
a contractor to give you just a quick bid on the system before the final thing?
Yeah, that's something that we're currently discussing with a couple of contractors,
Okay, great.
Mancini and JVA.
That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
We send them these drawings.
That would be realistic.
Who are the Mancinis you're speaking with?
And
Is it Rickman Construction?
No, Mancini.
Mancini and JVA.
DMSI?
JVA.
Oh, okay, all right.
They are the, One-
So I think we're getting to a point, a kind of an inflection point right now, eventually, where this council's going to have to make a decision to, because right now, clearly, we have a design that is already, ready to be built, and we have your concept, and it's got I'm gonna have to admit, it's got a lot of great merit on it. I think it's very astute the way you looked at the watershed and the way you want to capture it. But let's face it, we also have to prove some elements before we get there. So we're getting to that inflection point right now. Do we say, do we continue to move forward in this more for the committee? Do we continue to move forward in this direction to get ourselves not just a price, but are we comfortable overall with the approach? Like I said before, you got a robust, rip the streets, throw the pipe in, take care of the flooding, guarantee it dry, or we have a more of a boutique approach, which handles the rainfall. So what do we decide? Eventually, we're going to have to get to that decision.
Right.
Is that a decision for the next council? Is that when is that decision going to happen?
April.
The timeline is, we're
April,
going to
I'm
give a
sure.
final presentation in April. And
April.
then once
Make our
we
decision.
absorb what that is, then I think we
And we have all our details. And we can make a
identify
good
some
decision.
criteria. And I've already had Black and Veatch identifying comparison criteria so that we can make an objective decision initially, and then obviously we can make a subjective decision based on that.
Right.
Can we get some prices from some contractors, ballpark prices on ACOM to do the system?
Well, we have a cost estimate for you.
How much is it?
I don't know what it is, but for the stormwater, I think it's 43 million, right?
How much?
43 million for the stormwater.
But you got,
That includes road resurfacing and everything
Road
else.
resurfacing.
that's
is-
another
I'm
20
talking
million.
about complete.
It's about 12 million.
But we put in 78 for the loan, right? Well, we put in
The loan
seven,
is for 60 million.
we're borrowing 60, when it said the cost in your application, you said the cost was 78. So what's the difference between that and the 30 or 40?
But we also have the water and sewer conflicts. That's part of it. The undergrounding, remember
The conflicts are getting paid back by the water and sewer, right?
portions of it, not all of it. There's also the undergrounding, which is 12 to 14 million, the undergrounding of the electrical. So there's a number of components inside of.
I didn't see the electrical in there, okay, and that's 78 million.
Yeah, so see, the pure stormwater in the AECOM design is $43 million.
Without the road resurfacing.
The road resurfacing is approximately 12, Mike?
I think it's more like 20.
Is it more? My head's been long. But
Yeah.
we need to get those numbers in our head.
Yeah, so, Michael, obviously, you're on board doing this comparison, right? So at the end of the day, a lot of this, the earnest on this is going to be for you to basically put, apples to apples, or not apples to apples, but comparison to comparison down so that we have, a good solid cost number and a comparison so that we can make a technical decision and a cost-based decision. And that's obviously the goal at the end of this process, right?
I think a comprehensive decision based on all the factors, so cost, level of service.
Risk, all the rest.
Yes, construction, adaptability.
Readiness, funding structure.
Yeah.
I asked him to come up with last week an entire structure of what makes sense, and perhaps maybe that's something. Now, look, Giorgio's got to present this to council, full council, and then we come back for another ad hoc.
Right.
Maybe at that ad hoc meeting is where we can review what those selection criteria are.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe that's, and I think
Giorgio,
that's April 2nd.
They're gonna, Mike is gonna prepare a comparison between you and ACOM. You should also give us why you think your system is superior to those pros and cons.
Separate as a separate.
Yeah, separate thing.
That's
That might differ from what Mike says, then you have a discussion.
I mean, we're going to talk to Giorgio about his, we're going to talk to him about this because we obviously have to get some information. So this is.
Well, I understand, but I'm just saying, you might have a difference of opinion. He says, well, I really think this is better, and Mike says, no, I really think this is better. And they both know what they're doing, but they have a difference of opinion.
But we also
So
have.
he'll tell us why he thinks this is better, and Mike will say why he thinks his is better, that's all.
George,
I
And
think
then we can
ultimately-
be totally confused.
Ed, part of the deliverable, well, guys, part of the deliverable is a technical comparison. That's part of the.
But that's what Black and Veatch is doing.
No, that's what Giorgio's doing. It's in his contract.
Okay.
And our job is to present that comparison, but your job is to tell us what you think is better, because
Well,
the different
You're gonna
values.
tell us what you
different
think is better,
factors.
but I want him to know tell him why he thinks his is better.
But I think there's two
Understand.
steps to this, and I think the
Better
first step is we come back in the next ad hoc meeting, which I believe is April 2nd,
Yep.
with the criteria, not with an answer yet, but the criteria that we will judge it on. And then if you all believe that's a valid criteria, then we'll have them do it, because Giorgio still won't be done with his project at this point. Then once he's done, then we'll apply those criteria.
What won't you be done by April 2nd?
I think we'll be mostly completed.
He said, we'll be done, okay.
Yeah, because we have our.
Any
our
reason not to be done by April
schedules.
2nd?
Well, he doesn't present to the council until April.
No, just as was not-
Yeah.
At that point.
But the question is that we should meet before the council meeting,
Yes.
have all this, so that we recommend to the full council at that meeting which plan to go ahead with.
Correct.
Vote on it, and then we either go with ACOM or go with him, that's it, and move forward.
That's part of our responsibility
Yeah.
to make a recommendation. Which we
But our
do.
recommendation should not be technical. It should be based on what do we want for our village not to be affected over time. I mean, do we want something that is
Should be
like I
cubic
said,
feet per second.
robust, brute type of construction, or do we want to have something more tailored to the character of the community, taking into consideration sea level rise, hurricanes, and all those wonderful other things that we get hit with?
We'll have those intangibles in there.
Yeah.
That's
part of
what I'm
I
asking. I mean,
asked.
that's the decision that eventually council needs to make. I would hate for us, we're not in a position to be making technical decisions.
You are, but we're not.
I'm the part of this.
You're the
body.
only expert here.
I'm part of this
Come on,
body.
we're just
I'm not
messing with you for now.
not a-
So, Ed,
Trigger.
yeah,
Yeah,
so,
right.
Coach, opening up to the floor, does anybody have any questions anybody in the audience have any questions that they'd like to ask Giorgio? Betty, do you have a question?
Come to the mic, please. Well, the video doesn't catch the voices.
You're getting lazy.
No, does anybody, I mean, look, this is supposed to be a conversation, yeah, excuse me, this is supposed to be a conversation, so if anybody has a question, please feel free to ask a question. Okay, if not, we're gonna close. Yeah,
You wanna call Lucho up?
No,
No, man, these guys.
not if we don't have to. Okay, okay, Steve, you have any further things? Nope, okay.
There is, that evaluation timeline is going to, it's something we gotta be nuanced, and maybe we talk about this, because obviously he's gotta be done in order for us to do an evaluation.
Sure.
We can't evaluate till he's done, so there's gotta be some sort of understanding of that timeline, right? So let me and Mike think through that and figure out where that makes sense, because I mean, we can't be evaluating, maybe we could evaluate an airplane as it's being built in the air, but
The
I think
government
we
does it all the
to
time.
be done in order to give it a valid, clear.
But you evaluate as you go along, because you know what he's doing.
Well, no, we will be, yeah, but it's not till it's done we can.
But I
give
mean,
it effect.
basically, it's not gonna be major changes, distributed system with modular pump system, so You know what he's proposing.
We know what we're going.
But I just want to make sure we give a good evaluation.
Wait a second.
Betty does
Come
have a
on,
question.
Betty.
Because I'll get home and say, why didn't you ask?
Yeah, that's why I asked.
Okay, Betty Conroy, 785 Crandon Boulevard. What is the final price that ACOM has presented?
We don't know.
Oh, so you don't know either final
Well,
price?
we do know the number, and Mike has the number, but he could, if, it's an opinion of cost, so he hasn't, that's not been out for formal bid yet, so we don't know the exact
Don't
number.
know. We don't know,
They have
we
a
don't know
date-
contractor. who
So
said-
you couldn't answer my question, well, okay.
No,
No,
well,
so-
I mean, Mike, do you have a, oh, you're, okay, can you give Betty some answers, because you, roughly?
So I believe the construction costs, and this includes construction management, this includes utility undergrounding,
Take out the utility undergrounding part.
right? So that was, at the time, I believe,
12
12 million.
million.
So I think we were at about 88 million. I think we were actually with maybe a little bit under if you take out.
But that was an estimator, not a contractor.
Yes.
Including the underground, just stormwater strictly.
Stormwater was $43 million.
But hold on one second.
That's the big.
You're right, it was 88 with utility undergrounding, so it'd be 76 million. And that includes water and sewer.
Yeah, but that's,
as
we
well.
don't pay for that.
Well, that's right, but we'll pay for some of the water and sewer because some of the water and sewer will be conflicts that are created by the system. And some of them are gonna be created by the requests from water and sewer that we're doing at the same time. So water and sewer would be paying for what they're requesting, but not for all the conflicts that are being caused by the new system.
But the number 88 million came from the people that Steve hired to verify ACOM's thing.
No, we did an overview,
did?
an estimate, yes.
What
So we did an OPC.
But that other company you hired, Steve,
That was CES, and they did that at the 30% design.
and they came up with the 88 million.
No,
Because the ACOM's is like 80 million or 78 million, and there was like $6 or $8 million above.
I believe it increased from the 30%, even the CES
From the-
version, to the
The 80,
60%,
some
then the
million.
90%.
Now,
and I
that's
believe
not a
100%
contractor's
CES.
estimate, that's their estimate, so that's what we're talking about. So we really don't have,
Yes.
yeah, I'm just saying, to answer Betty, we don't have what a contractor would charge yet on either job. In other words, we don't have a contractor say, hey, I'll build this for X.
So,
Once we have that, then we can compare, but we don't have it
You
yet.
don't want the contractor's number in the beginning, do you want the contractor's number at the end?
yes,
Because the beginning, he's gonna lowball it, they're gonna come in with the prices that they best can do it to win the job, they generally do that, we all.
Contractors do that?
I don't, I'm not a contractor.
and generally, you want to make sure that when the procurement goes out, you have a fair bid that goes out to all contractors at the same time.
That's all we can rely on, really.
Okay,
It's
At
standard.
the
Alright.
end of the day, it's when, the last day when they job.
okay,
We'll have a good comparison at the end.
all right. Sorry we couldn't give you a good answer, Betty, apologize.
Betty, I'll email it to you tomorrow.
You'll let me know tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, anybody else? Okay, thank you very much for coming, appreciate it. Jocelyn, I think we're done, right?
Motion adjourned.
Thank you, guys. Good stuff.